All right. So we are live, guys, on Beyond the Beyond. I am Wesley Marquis from Marlee Paranormal. We also have Darlene Lee from yet to be named YouTube channel. She will be having her own paranormal YouTube channel very soon to talk about her experiences in the paranormal. And we also have, well, introduce yourself, man.
I'm Johann from Red Cell Paranormal. How you guys doing today?
All right, guys. So, man, Darlene and I had one hell of an experience last night, and we're gonna kind of grind our gears about that for a little bit.
I had a
So
I had an
we
experience this week as well. Sorry to interrupt you, but I want to continue with your story, and then we'll talk about mine afterwards.
absolutely. So um, yesterday we had some guys install a furnace and a new furnace. They were changing all the furnaces in our townhouses here,
Okay, yeah.
and so they install the furnace, and these kids come in and they're like, geez, and sorry, some of them couldn't have been that old at all. Some of them look like they're 15 or 16 years old. And
Wow.
anyways, later on in the night, I guess Sam, Darlene's daughter, came home and said she could smell gas, and
Okay.
didn't really think much of it. I was thinking that it was like the smell of a new furnace or something. And then I turn on the heat, and it just emanated throughout the entire house.
It just
And
permeated. You could just smell that smell through the whole house.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it must have been around 2 a.m. Was it 2 a.m., hun?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 a.m. Darlene messages me on Messenger. I'm downstairs, and she messages me, and she asks me, "Do you smell gas?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And I'm thinking, well, maybe we should give Kevin a call in the morning, but to smell gas is not really something you want to play with. So Darlene made
Nope.
sure that we all got out of the house
Yep.
and called the gas company, and then called 911. And we waited for them, and sure enough, there was a gas leak, and yeah, yeah. So they had to red tag everything, and I showed you those pictures earlier, John, of
Yeah,
the tags
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, I kind of seen. Oh, we dropped
Both
Marley
of
for a
us,
minute. That's
Wesley.
rough. He'll be back. We dropped him, but no, I saw the pictures, and then when the first, what happens is like if I get multiple messages on my Hangouts, it'll stack the message, and then so what happens is that I can't see the full first one. So at the beginning, I was like, well, depending because there's in Canada there's a 10-day buyer's remorse where you can just take the item back depending on your province and whatnot, and it's there's no questions asked, it's an automatic
Is
return or
everybody here?
whatever. Yeah, yeah, we're all here. And so that's kind of what I thought, and that's what I was saying to him. And then I seen the whole message about how you guys could have freaking died, and I was like, yeah, no, you have definite just cause for at least litigation. You know what I mean?
That's what I was
um
thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
you do, absolutely. When someone gets red tagged like that, that means that there should probably be an investigation into how many more units have become that faulty, and then if it's bad, they have to issue a product recall, and so chances are they would probably give you a settlement offer before you guys even threaten to go any further into a civil action.
Yeah, it wasn't the actual furnace, it was one of the pipes that they didn't have the proper um hookup for it. So
Yeah,
Well, he
it
found
didn't.
something else too. At the same time, he found something else as well.
well, if
While the investigator was there, he found something.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean, if the people installing it looked like they were underage and minors, I don't care how well you train a teenager to do something, they will make a mistake. Just the same way you train a 44-year-old to do something, and he does it all his life, and he's 44, and he finally misses a tack weld on something. It happens. You know what I mean? But with younger children, like teenagers and that, depending on them to hook up something that could become a potential bomb. You know what I mean? Like, no. Whatever company that was, that's crazy. If, especially having underage kids installing this stuff. Absolutely
I mean,
insane.
we're not sure if they're underage, but they did look
No,
young.
no, yeah, they absolutely, yeah, you know what I mean? Today's day and age, I mean, you never know, but I mean, just even then, an 18-year-old or whatever, they should still bloody well know better, you know?
Hmm.
If the
Yep.
inspector found a ton of faulty issues, or even a couple of faulty issues, pardon me, my sinuses are bad. It's going into spring here, so and
Yeah.
but even if that inspector found a couple of main issues, I mean, they're gonna have to, look at that company's repairmen or the installers and what their training is, what kind of certifications they may need to undergo with the law. I mean, that stuff you guys could look up and, find out, like how long does it take to get a course for all the WMIS gases and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
just to do your own due diligence before you do maybe shell out some money for a professional attorney instead of going through like legal aid, which will take a little bit longer, but you'll find somebody to take your case pro bono, obviously, instead of, somebody,
Yeah.
like in Canada, our judicial system is much different than the States. I mean, it's still, if you have a lot of money, you can tie litigation up, but it's not like the United States where, if you have $1 million defense, it's going to beat anybody's, $15,000 deposit lawyer type deal, where Canada
Yeah.
isn't quite like that. So that's kind
Yeah.
of
And
where we have.
Darlene, you were
Go
saying
ahead,
that you
son.
were, yeah, you said you were having a feeling about it, like when they were there or something like that.
Well, the day before, when I had went out briefly for errands, they had come and missed me, so they skipped over me. And then I saw them. I just, from that moment, I had a bad feeling. And then the next morning, I didn't want them coming in. I really didn't. I knew we were going to get a gas leak.
Okay.
I knew it was going to happen. I don't know who or what was telling me that it was going to happen. I just wish that I had listened to my intuition sooner. We sat in this house for 12 hours with that gas going in our basement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really wish I had listened sooner, but I'm glad
Yeah.
nothing major, happened.
In a way, that
Yeah.
that almost tells me that like that was almost like a wake up call, like, hey, we were knocking on the window for, a lot of the day, and now maybe you'll start listening.
Yeah.
Did
you
you
know
did you s- almost didn't you say you heard something like hit the window or something, Darlene?
Hit the
Like a
window.
couple days ago? No, I could
No,
be wrong about that.
I mean, birds hit my window once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, that that happens a lot for some reason. Stupid birds.
yeah, well, it's spring, so the little ones and that are starting to try to jump out and stuff like that, and they don't distinguish windows. They haven't figured that out yet, so
Yeah.
get some of them plunk, and then they hit the ground. But what do you call it? No, it almost kind of seemed like with Darlene's case here, that something was telling her, hey, this isn't going to be good, you know? And it's very common for people to just brush off a feeling, a gut feeling, I mean,
Yeah.
people do it in way worse cases all the time. Like, I don't trust this scraggly looking guy to babysit my child, but, I haven't had a night off in 3 weeks, so he's the best I can do. You know what I mean? Like, people do
Yeah.
those kinds of things, you know what I mean? And then what happens, bad things could happen, but
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, maybe that could be related to kind of the paranormal or the quote existential. Is that maybe a spirit guide or somebody was like, "Hey, this isn't going to be good,"
Yeah, I
and
believe that, yeah, with your spirit guides, your guardian angels basically are, if you've got an instinct or a gut instinct, that's them telling you.
Yeah,
That's my belief.
absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
really do believe that too. And I just wanted to thank you also. I'm not saying, oh, go leave now, but I just actually wanted to say thank you for coming on because it really kind of illustrates the point that Wes and I are making on this podcast, which is you're not alone. You know what I mean? No matter what kind of experience you have or what has happened to you or anything like that, our message and our mission is that you are not alone. So by you
Yep.
coming on and just even talking about what happened, and your feelings about it it's hopefully it'll show any chatters or listeners that we have now or that listen to this that listen to this podcast down the line that hey, these guys they practice what they preach.
Yep.
So I just wanted to thank you for coming on because it's not easy for a lot of people. It wasn't easy for me when I first started showing up on streams and stuff like that. I didn't want to show my face or I wanted to wear a mask or those kinds of things and so yeah, I guess for some people it's tough, and so I just wanted to thank you for not just courage but for coming out and talking and making a difference in today's program.
So, Darlene, you were wanting to talk about some of your paranormal experiences, some of the things that you see, like kind of your empathy and stuff like that, and how that
Yeah,
works.
well, I when a person is feeling something, I feel it. Um, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, somebody's stressed or there's stress in the house, then I am just skyrocket anxiety. Um, I, I I can sense things around me, but I can't always. I've only a few, obviously seen it a few times.
Hmm.
So,
Um,
what are some of the things that you've sensed?
just that somebody's there. Um, I know that this is hard. I had a miscarriage, and
Okay.
I was told by a psychic that I do have a child spirit with me, and I do believe I do because there's always a certain way I have to sit on the couch. It's almost like allowing that little one to sit beside me. I
Oh
don't know. It's
wow.
weird.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't be on a certain side of her. I have to always be on a different side of her.
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting because that could be true, and it doesn't matter whether you've been pregnant for a day or whether you've been pregnant on I mean as psychologically, okay? So if a woman finds out she's pregnant and the next day loses the baby, right? I feel there's still a piece like that woman still did maybe rejoice that, yay, I'm pregnant, I'm going to start a family, right? Or if you had something where you lost the baby late. And if you're not comfortable talking about this, that's totally fine. But either way, you're still going to feel that loss, whether you knew for 12 hours or whether you knew for, 6 months or 8 months. And so I think that transfers because, like a mother, when the baby's in utero or in the womb, you're transferring that knowledge, everything as a mother. You're nourishing the child, you're transferring love to the child as a mother, thinking about and I think that's why babies kick and that's why babies do those things, is to validate to you that hey, like he or she can hear what I am saying, this little creature inside of me. And so whether a woman is pregnant for 24 hours, 48 hours, or to full term, there's something there. And a woman, the body goes through a process, obviously, and there's hormones and stuff, right? And I think that still happens regardless whether you lose your child or not. And so, what's that baby going to be the most familiar with? And this is, like really in kind of a context, but that baby's going to be familiar with its mother or its host. You
Hmm.
hosted that child. You know what I mean? like you gave it a place in your body. You know what I mean? So that spirit, even though it didn't, come out into this world alive, the spirit still lives. And perhaps, you know what I mean? And what it knows is you. And that's possibly why the attachment's there. And probably guaranteed, when it's your time, way down in the future, very many years, very, very, probably another 50 years down the line,
Not that much.
you will, you'll be reunited.
Yeah.
And that's
I
just
believe
how I
that.
feel
Yeah.
about these kinds of things, so that's just my thoughts on it.
You answering questions there, Wes?
I'm on mute. I'm on mute here.
Oh.
I did it again.
That's
But
okay. At least we're not hanging up and everything. So
yeah. So what I was saying was a lot of times when I put a K2 on Darlene, on one on Darlene's side, what is it, the left or the right side? I can't remember.
It's the left.
Yeah, the left side. It'll go off like right at her knee.
Yeah.
It's very strange, and it doesn't happen all the time, but quite often it will happen, like right on that side, like there's something there,
Yeah.
and
Here's
it just
a
kind of
que-
validates that.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever played the spirit box and ever maybe heard the voice of a child?
I don't think we've
And
ever had.
here's another one. Have you ever heard your own voice?
I don't think
No.
I
I've
have.
heard I've
I
heard
know
my own voice.
I know other people have, and
And
I
that's
guess
really weird. That's like apparently like a demonic inflection, mimicking or whatever. But
oh
I
yeah.
mean, I've just always wondered because I heard my own voice a couple of times in sessions I haven't posted yet
Hmm.
because I'm going through them at half speed, 0.5 to hear the replies, eh?
Hmm.
And I just like I heard my own voice and I could swear that's my voice and I wasn't talking, So,
Yeah.
it's a little weird. I'm sorry, that's just a little off topic, but like I'm not trying to take away from
Oh no,
your
not at
story
all.
or anything at all. I was just kind of curious and just wanted to ask.
So, Darlene, what's the most intense paranormal experience you've had?
Intent. Like what do you like?
Most prominent, or most like the one that comes to
Something
One,
mind
really
most?
the
really
one,
scared you, or the most realistic or vivid one, like
the one is really vivid is the seeing that old man at the end of our bed that one time,
oh wow,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
and
Well, that's
asking Wesley. I asked Wesley. I'm like, "Who's that old man standing at the end of our bed?" He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that was strange because yeah, just you were like in half asleep, I think, just, and you're like just like you said, who's that old man standing there? And like, what old man? Because I didn't see anything.
No, oh, it only made himself available to her. Okay, that's
Well,
happened.
he had
Okay,
messages for me.
okay, okay.
Um, I believe it was Wesley's grandfather,
Ah,
and
okay.
at the time, Wesley and I were going through some rough times, and he told me to just have faith in him, and
Okay, yeah.
that things will work out basically, and they have.
They have,
That's
yeah.
good. Yeah, that's really awesome. I mean, my girlfriend and I, we went through our own tribulations, especially when I back there, with the whole roommate moving out and me not having any money and all that kind of stuff. And she stuck by my side. And, I told her, man, I told her straight up, like, I got nothing. Like, if you want to leave and pack up, you should, like, that's that. And she refused.
I
So.
tell that to Wesley all the time. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
if you
got nothing for you, but hey, if you want to pack up, go ahead. But he doesn't.
No,
Nope.
no.
I'm in it for the long haul.
That's me with Savannah too. I love her. You know, she's my woman. That's it. There's no other way to
That's
explain it.
Savannah. That's what I was going to name my daughter, actually.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. What's the name? You
So I
know.
ended
So
up naming her Samantha.
I got a half sister named Samantha. Another one named Amber. I don't. According to my biological father, who I met, but what do you call it? He just like he found me on Facebook, and then like he wanted to meet like all of us or whatever. And then so like I at first I was like, nah, like he took off. My mom threw him out when like I was 2 years old, so I never really saw him, you know. And
Hmm.
then I guess and like, you know, I heard a bunch of stuff and I figured I'd give him a chance or whatever. And he ended up coming out here like a couple of times, but like literally, like even my girlfriend pointed this out because like it was always a by the way. Like, you know, oh yeah, I'll come out, but like, do you think you could give me 100 and whatever for my gas money?
Hmm.
You know, because he's like, oh, I'm driving from Saskatchewan or whatever, right? And like my mother even told me, like, basically, yeah, that's like what it is. Like, until once you stop giving him money, like, he's gonna stop contacting you and stuff. And that's exactly what happened. Like, I was broke at the time. That was like last year, and I was like, dude, I can't afford to give you money to come out here. Like, I just can't. And so I think what he just wanted was his like when I hugged him and said, you know, nice to meet you, Dad, and like that's what he wanted. And now that he got it, you know what I mean? He's
Hmm.
happy with that. So, you know, I put myself out there and it hurt a little bit, but I'm a grown boy, so you know, I took it on the chin and moved on.
Yep.
So that's what I did, you know.
Hmm.
But my mother told me, yeah, that's classic, you know, Ronald. That's his name. So, yeah, that's classic Ron. You know, it's all about the money or whatever he can take from you. So, yeah, yeah.
That's
But
unfortunate.
I had an experience and it scared the shit out of me because I thought somebody came in the house while I was gone.
Hmm.
And what happened? Well, yeah, because what happened was like I came home from the pharmacy. My girlfriend was working, so I had to go pick up her prescriptions for her, right? And so I
Yep.
went and picked up her prescriptions, and I came home. And as I was going into the you know through the living room to where we have our bedroom right now, like in the old dining room area, I heard literally like a guy, you could hear him like turn around and you could hear the footsteps. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I scared this person. And then you could hear like, you know, the footsteps running, but it was almost like I could see, you know what I mean? But it was only in like my mind. Could I see what this person looked like, you know?
Hmm.
And it was like okay, and like I'm a knife guy. I always have a knife next to my bed. I have a knife placed here. Like maybe I'm crazy like Dwight from the office, like you know I got weapons put all over the place just in case, you know. And so like I grabbed like a shorter knife and a bigger knife, and what do you call it, went and walked it, you know, went around the house and went downstairs, upstairs, looked at everything, and there was nobody there, but I could swear like somebody came inside the house like while I was, you know what I mean, and just like, but nothing was taken, nothing was moved, but it was just one of the most like, and it was so real that like the hair was on, like you know, and I was like getting full of adrenaline and like my hand was tremoring, you know what I mean, like that's how real it felt, like I was about to get into it, you know, with something or
Yeah.
somebody basically, and nothing happened, you know, so you know, nothing happened at all, so that was the weirdest thing. And that's
Yeah.
why I put up that impromptu spirit box session. So
Mhm. So you just kind of sensed something there, but couldn't
yeah,
actually see anything.
yeah, I couldn't see nothing. You could just hear it. You could hear him turn around and run. It was
Hmm.
one of the weirdest things. Yeah, but the door didn't slam. Nothing. You know, it was just that.
That
That's
is
just how.
weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. It
Well,
freaked me right
guy,
out.
Thanks for having me on. Wesley, do you remember what we had discussed earlier about how I am looking for ideas on names for my channel?
Yeah, Darlene is. That's right, Darlene. You were looking for names for your channel. We were actually going to have a contest. Why don't you talk about that? It's your channel, huh?
Well, we're going to announce the details of the contest later,
Oh,
and maybe another time. But we are going to have one for a name for my channel. So keep your eye open on
yeah. Why
Marlee.
don't you tell people what your channel is going to be about?
Well, just about my intuitions, my visions, my dreams. Um, I get goosebumps just talking about it. Um, yeah, just basically my thoughts of what I think is going to happen in the future, and the dreams that I have. I'll talk more about them. How a lot of them have come true.
Wow.
Stuff like that.
Can you tell us just one of your dreams, just to give people an idea of what that's all about?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I would love to hear that.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think of one that's.
Yeah, no pressure. Just
Which one? I've told you my dreams.
hmm
I dreamt. Okay, so it is depressing. I mean, about death. I dreamt that my brother was going to die, and I had that dream probably for about a year and a half, and I just sensed that he just wasn't grounded on Earth. He didn't feel like he was completely here. He was always thinking of death. And I did predict basically that he would die, and by his own hand, and he did.
hmm
Okay. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Was he? So he was a very unhappy man. Then let's just put it.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was 12 years ago he died.
Yeah.
So he was only 27,
Young man.
unfortunately.
hmm
But yeah, like I'll talk about more of the dreams and the visions that I have on later on my channel on here or whatever, you know. But yeah,
Oh
And
yeah,
your
you're definitely
intuitions and stuff like
welcome.
that.
In my opinion, I think that would be cool to bring you back as a guest to speak about, like, do a podcast with you as our guest. You know what I mean? Talking about what you want to talk about on your channel. After you
yeah,
get some videos up and stuff like that, we should bring you back as a guest.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you're willing to do that, Darlene.
yeah,
Yeah, if
yeah,
you're willing to come on again.
yeah,
Maybe we can make you a regular every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every podcast has regulars, so
yeah.
Yeah, and Darlene, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I know that we talked before you came on, and you're really nervous about going on. I really appreciate you doing this. So
yeah,
thank you so
me too.
much.
Thank you so much. And eventually the nerves will wear off.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah,
do
Okay,
do that. So
okay.
yeah.
Well,
thanks.
you guys have a good evening, and I will talk with you guys later.
All
All
right,
right.
bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
All right, Darlene Lee, thanks so much for joining us again, and
Ooh.
um, thanks, John, for allowing her to come on tonight as well. I appreciate that.
Oh, no worries, man. I love it when somebody comes on and, it's our message, right? You're not alone. So we can facilitate somebody that would want to, I mean, eventually we're not going to be able to take every request, right? But you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Every once in a while, maybe a lucky viewer will get to come on and be interviewed. There's a guy called CW Chanter out there,
Oh
and he
yeah.
does a lot of, yeah, and he does a lot of stuff, kind of saying, you want to be into the conspiracy stuff and all that. You need to also, if you don't like Carrie Cassidy, or if you don't like Miles Johnston, or if you don't like, for instance, that pedophile Bill Brockbrader,
Hmm.
who was a fake Navy SEAL but claimed that he was used as a space marine or whatever. Sometimes and I'm just saying, is like, or if you don't like Alex Jones, sometimes you still gotta watch Alex Jones. Just even if it wants to, even if your teeth are cringed so hard they're about to shatter. Sometimes you still gotta watch what they're just to be up and up on what the opposition is about. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so you know what I mean? I liken it to sort of that. And then when he gets into a disagreement with somebody, like on Sunday, it was uh, a very nice disagreement, just about like something that he had said. Nobody was getting heated or anything like that whatsoever. And the guy accidentally, like, his internet dropped. And then so CW was like, "Oh, I hope he's not mad," all that kind of stuff. And I definitely invite him to come back one on one for an episode and
So
stuff
this is
like
cool.
that.
This is cool. We got someone from Brazil on our chat here, just saying
Oh,
hello to
nice.
how you doing? Thanks for
How's
joining.
it going, Brazil?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
So, John, you're going to talk a little bit about Serco tonight. I don't know a heck of a lot about that, but
I didn't either. I honestly thought it was called circle, like a circle, but it's
okay.
not. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
because I
it's
think that's
called
what you called it earlier today was Circle,
you,
but then
I
later you
think
actually spelled it SERCO. So,
yeah, Serco. Yeah, and it's actually like a company that's online. They're bringing in new train cars and all sorts of stuff, like luxury train cars and stuff. But they're basically the main head of the cabal of the deep state, so to speak. They're the guys that they run everything. And
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people get hung up on the Illuminati Council of 13 and the Council of 300 and then the Council of 500 and all this kind of stuff. And, or the Trilateral Commission or the Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs, those types of groups. And that, everybody thinks, well, they're the ones that are doing the Bilderbergs, all that kind of stuff, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, well, yeah, some of those guys play parts, but the first I heard about Serco was Carrie Cassidy came back on a second channel and did an interview with Mr. David Hawkins, who's living in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Right.
And one of the things he is that he is actually a forensic crime scene analyst. So he actually paced the book repository building where what's his name there, Lee Harvey Oswald, apparently fired the kill shot that killed Kennedy. And unknowingly, he didn't know it, but he got his hair cut in Texas by Jack Ruby's barber.
No,
The
no way.
man who shot, yeah, the man who shot Lee Harvey Oswald 5 times in the stomach. And
Wow.
yeah, and so when he was sitting in the chair, he asked him, what do you think here in Texas about the JFK assassination? And the man simply said, everybody in Texas knows there were multiple shooters.
Oh, wow.
So that was the kind of the first that I was exposed to, was because there's a global spiritual revolution radio, these guys are called, and there's a reverend. He's an African American guy. He's really cool.
Hmm.
He kind of looks and sounds like Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. But yeah, but he's not an asshole. He's not an asshole, but God bless that show. But no, this man's a cool guy, and what I saw was the greatest conspiracy ever told. Guest David Hawkins. So I started watching this, and this goes back to very, 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 very long ago. This information, it goes way, way back. And so he's talking about a lot of stuff and companies and everything, and how Serco has been involved in, let's say, for instance, the infiltration of the US Patent Office right after 1776 when Lincoln was in there.
Hmm.
And so what ended up happening was that it was a British guy who actually was appointed to the U.S. Patent Office, and then there was a fire,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the first. I think it was 1,000. Some people claim it was anywhere between 200 to 1,000 patents, and some want to say 10,000, but I don't think there were that many at the time. And so I'm going to go with a more conservative number of, let's say, 200. And so they took the first 200 patents that were backed also by the British colonies, back home, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what happened was when that office with those patents that the copies there had burned down, they were automatically reverted to British property. So the British owned
Okay.
them again. So that fire was conveniently set. And though in those patents, or what's called a patent thicket,
Mm-hmm.
you can now do the IPOs and all that kind of stuff on the stock market and make a whole ton of money. So
Right. Right.
basically the deal was that King George will let you go and settle and all that kind of stuff, and you can have your little war for independence, but you got to pay for it. And that was kind of one of the ways it was paid for. And that's kind of how Serco operates.
Okay. Now you said that there was something to do with when we were talking. You said there was something to do with like death betting or something like that.
Yes, death betting. Well, what death betting is let's say in the instance of 9/11, or let's say in the instance of I don't know, Las Vegas or another mass shooting. You know. So what would happen is that these elites who fund these projects, right? And so what happens is now is, and this also happens with wet ops. So people that are killed by the government as because they're whistleblowers or whatever, and they're murdered, and people find them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I don't know if I'm 100% sold on death betting
Mm-hmm.
because um, when I get into the wet ops, I'll explain why. But for 9/11, let's say, okay. Um, Now the buildings go down.
Yeah.
All right. So all these elites are taking bets on how many firemen are going to die today.
Right. At
You
the
know,
9/11 thing.
how many civilians will die? How many policemen will die? What will the official number be? And
Mm-hmm.
so they will then wager on, they will place wagers on and see it in real time. I'm going to quote Mr. David Hawkins here because he
Excuse
said that
me.
9/11 was the first mass snuff film ever produced. If you think of it as, when the
Mm-hmm.
towers are
Yeah. Yeah.
falling,
Yeah.
it's basically the world's first mass snuff film ever produced.
Yeah. It was all being
And
recorded
so
live or being broadcast live, even. So.
exactly. And the America would have been crippled if they would have taken out 100% of the targets instead of 75, because the fourth airplane, which was 45 minutes late in departure, which ended up being the Shanksville plane, which was apparently taken over, but it was not. That was meant to hit the Capitol building.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that there was a congressional meeting, so all the senators and congressmen were inside of there. Congressmen and women, sorry, were all in there, and so they would have all been killed that day if that plane hit that building, and America would have been then cut off and crippled because they would not have had a Senate. They would not have had anybody to vote to go to war. It would have gone to President Bush,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy in the command and control room that day was Dick Cheney, not Bush. Bush was in Florida, as we all know, reading a story about a goat, and he was
Yep.
holding the book upside down.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that signals Satanism. That signals, the upside down goat's head, or the upside down, the Baphomet, the upside down pentagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost a signal, like of what was going on that day, and that he did know about it, and this is what was going on, because Condoleezza Rice was even telling people that it was better not to come to Washington that day, or New York and stuff like that. It was better to stay out. And
Wow.
so, yeah, when it happened, you had, I do believe it was Dick Cheney in that picture. And then
Hmm.
you had Lynn Cheney. And then you had, I think it was either Christine Marcy or Bernadine Dorn. I'm not sure which. But if anybody's familiar with Bernadine Dorn, she's a psychopath, a complete psychopath killer. She's the woman that placed a bomb in the women's bathroom of the Pentagon in the 1970s, I do believe it was.
Okay.
She was never arrested. She was never charged, but she was on the America's Most Wanted list many times next to Osama bin Laden, for instance. And she was, I think, pardoned eventually or cleared. I can't remember by which administration, but
Mm,
by this point, she had already worked high enough up.
right.
So, what death betting then goes into is that you have all these people placing wagers on death counts. Now, when we get into the wet offs, which I'm going to get into here, there was a couple, they were murdered and they were found hanging by their belts from the fence around their swimming pool. And the
Okay.
way that they were positioned was when they hung, it was they were deliberately positioned so that they would be looking at each other in the face as they both were choking and dying. And
Wow.
so, and going back to also the Zapruder film, where the
Hmm.
close up of Kennedy and he's holding his
Yep.
neck,
Yep.
that kind of shows to the exact time, almost to the exact second. So if somebody said at this time he'll be dead for sure, and they place a wager on it, that's why that
Oh, okay.
film is looks that way.
Hmm.
And so what happens is then is somebody who is carrying this out, which we'll go into Christine Marcy about that later, okay? A
Hmm.
body cam so that people can watch the footage of these two people dying, being hung, and watching each other. And they can take a wager now on who's going to die first, the husband or the wife.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the mentality of these people that are, close to Serco or work under Serco or who have to work for Serco because they've been blackmailed by, the agency. And what Serco is very, very good at doing is that it will put you in a hazing ritual. And I've
Hmm.
got 7 pages of notes. It went from like 5 yesterday now to 7. There's a term, and they will Mendenhall you. Now, the definition of Mendenhall, and this is a little bit 18 plus, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not going to get, gross with the terminology,
Hmm.
but to be Mendenhall is, it's a type of a hazing. All right. So you might think you're by yourself and somebody's going to come in and do this to you, and you're not aware that there are people watching from, say, a mirror in the wall, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so you're to be mounted from behind in some secret society hazing or a satanic ritual, whatever, something like that, some kind of secret society or a university fraternity or sorority,
Hmm.
and be rolled over onto your side after you've been assaulted by the perpetrator with himself still inside of you to show an audience to further shame you.
Wow.
So they take you from behind and they roll you onto your side and they expose you to all the people there and then they begin to laugh at you and whatnot. And then what happens is that these are then filmed and then played for these people later saying, if you do not want this to get out, you're going to do what we say. And it's
Hmm.
an old term from England saying, well, do you have the wood on somebody? And what
Okay.
that means, have the wood on somebody is do you have enough evidence to send him to the gallows to be
Hmm.
hung by? So let's have the wood on somebody.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways to do it. So you could think, with the Yale death weird stuff with the skull and bones, that Mendenhall could possibly happen. There was a second definition, but I never caught it, and I didn't really want to because it was so disgusting and vile. Even I didn't want to write it down. So, and I can mire through a lot of crap, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Serco is all encompassing, and what happened is that after the Second World War, well, during the Second World War, the British and the United States the British mainly built an amazing radar system, a telegraph system, a radar friend or foe system, the identifications, that kind of stuff. And then the US basically made the ordnance. They made the bombs, the tanks, that all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening and is basically they traded, we'll trade you this for this, and because what Americans had also the nuclear technology and stuff like that, but the British were making big strides in nerve agents and gases and stuff like that, so they traded the knowledge of the weaponry, and they also, by doing that, they traded the patents. And then so that further goes into death betting, where just recently in America, well, not just recently, but I think it was like 2016, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security bought something like 1.2 billion hollow point rounds. I don't know if you remember that, but they said it was to equip reservists and stuff like that. Well, those hollow point rounds inside, you can put a little bit of an agent, a nerve agent, a gas, a paralytic, an anticoagulant, whatever. So when they shoot you, even a radioactive, dye. So that if you're wounded and you're bleeding and you're being chased, then all they need is a Geiger counter to chase you, that kind of a thing. And that's another thing with death betting, is that they would shoot somebody with one of these rounds filled with a type of gas or something. Let's say, for instance, Novichok, which is what the Russians were being asked about regarding the Syrians, was this Novichok gas. And they call it Novichok because it reaches your lungs and you choke until you die. And the people that apparently were poisoned by it they're alive. They survived. And so there was never any, that is how controlled our media is here, is that a lot of people didn't even know that attack happened here. And a lot of people don't really know what's going on because our media is so controlled and streamlined now with algorithms and that I've played YouTube clips for people about what's really going on, such as in Israel, for instance, where you have settlers there and they're shooting Palestinians and they're wearing T-shirts, and it has a crosshair, and inside the crosshair is a pregnant Muslim lady holding her belly, and the crosshairs are dialed into the belly, and it says 1 shot, 2 kills. And people are walking around with that now in Israel, these T-shirts. It's bloody abhorrent. It's abhorrent, And so when you can put an agent or something inside of one of these bullets, then you could shoot somebody and then take a wager on, well, how long will it take them to die when this is applied and that. So that's death betting in a nutshell. But where I have it a hard time accepting that death betting is something they can do via a body cam, because what happens is that this stuff is all transmitted over Tor, the onion router, because the Tor was originally the bloody intranet for the army, the armed forces.
Right.
That's what the onion router was, and now you got reporters that use it and whistleblowers and all that, all that kind of stuff. And then there's nefarious uses like what people would call a red room, which I think have been thoroughly debunked. I don't think red rooms are possible, but that's essentially what Mr. Hawkins is alleging is going on.
Mhm.
Is that these people are watching this online through the Onion router, and I'm like, sir, have you been on that? Do you even know how long it would take to watch something streaming from the Onion router? Like it would
Mhm.
take, days to watch something like that. It would take days to watch it, you know?
Yep.
So that's the issue that I have about the death betting and the body cams and about the people that were up close is that if they're going through the deep web, like how are it doesn't matter if you have a satellite signal or not. The deep web travels slowly, especially the Onion router. I
Mhm.
mean, you're at speeds less than 56K a lot of the times, which I that's what I've been told. I've never been on the Onion router. I've never been on the deep web.
Right.
Pardon me for a minute here. I've never been on the deep web. I've watched Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers do his weekly series
Hi,
on the deep web.
Diabolical Witness. Diabolical Witness just joined the chat, just saying hi to you.
Hi, hi, Diabolical Witness. How you doing?
Anyways, you're saying about people the thing
Oh,
about the
I
red
watch
rooms.
another guy that from YouTube that goes on the deep web. He's got a series and it's over. Fuck, pardon my language, but I
Hi,
mean it's been
Candace.
over. Oh, Candice Boulin,
Yeah.
Candice,
Yeah.
B. Hey, how you doing? She's a great friend of
Happy
mine. I
Friday.
love her.
Yeah, I finally got the day off today, so it is a good Friday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, so the thing that I have about the death betting up close and with the is that I don't think it can be properly, it would have to be distributed through other channels in order for these people to receive it, which is very possible. And maybe there's a way that the government, can do something like that, we can't,
Yeah.
so I mean you can it's either yes or it's a no. I don't know for sure. So, I
Yeah.
can't go out there and comment because I don't know enough about the text, but that's what death betting is in a non-shell or in a nutshell and not a non-shell. Sorry.
Yeah. I know what you meant.
Oh, there were actually I'm sorry. There was actually six targets on 9/11. Actually, there was the twin both towers, right? And
Mhm.
then you had the building 7. We had the Pentagon. We had the state/Capitol building, and they also were going to hit the CIA headquarters.
Oh wow.
Yeah. What do you call it? And it was not a Tomahawk missile that they believe that hit it. They believe it was an AC-130, I do believe, or yeah, I think it was an AC-130 that they believe hit it because that would have the correct mountings in the engine that they found.
Mhm.
And then the mysterious box that was carried away from the Pentagon with all the guys, that was
Mhm.
the shell of the airplane, the fuselage, whatever was left of that. So that was like the front part of the airplane.
Mhm.
Um, I found that out doing the research, listening through Field McConnell and all that. Field McConnell, Marcy, brother of Christine Marcy. And that made a lot more sense. And the thing is that they could just drone a plane because now they have a technology where they could stick a plane on autopilot. So if a plane was hijacked now and you manage to overpower the hijackers, the air control guys could tell you how to put it on autopilot and it would run its course and land itself. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
wouldn't have to pull out a book like they said these people on the Shanksville plane did
Mhm.
over
Mhm. Mhm.
Pennsylvania. Pull out a book and listen and, do all these knobs
Yeah.
and this and that. And, and I don't believe a plane hit in Shanksville. I believe that was a missile
Mhm.
because there would have
Yeah.
been,
Yeah. Looks like a missile, or
there
from
would have been
what they showed.
bodies and yeah, there would have been bodies and everything else, So honestly, I don't believe it. So
Well, when you don't have any remains from a plane, or you'd think you'd see personal belongings
Well,
thrown everywhere, and
human
that kind of thing.
remains.
The human
Yeah,
remains, but you didn't see
they're,
any of that.
no, there was nothing at all. Same with the Vegas shooting. There were no reported gunshot wounds at any of the local hospitals.
Hmm.
So where did they take these 500 and some people who all got shot there? They didn't go to local hospitals, and that's where they would have gone first. The paramedics would have taken them to the closest areas because they would have qualified for triage first.
Hmm.
So that leads me to believe a lot of them were crisis actors.
Yeah, smoke screen.
Yeah, and that kind of will feed into where we're gonna go next. But I mean, is there anything you want to talk about or say or anything like that? Is there
No, I'm
anything
just learning about the Serco stuff that you're talking about here, John.
you don't have any questions or anything?
Oh, you just keep going, John. If I have a
Okay.
question, I'll ask it.
Well, here's an interesting tidbit for you now. Okay. Um, in the end of Jimmy Carter's term, she was asked by Jimmy Carter, this is Christine Marcy, all right, to form the Secret Executive Service, the SES.
Hmm.
Or Senior Executive Service, I do believe. The SES. Oh, I got terminated. So it's just me until he comes back in, it looks like. Um, let's see here. If I'm still there we go. Hello. You got terminated, but I was still
Oh,
here. So
there we go.
yeah, I was like, what the heck? Okay, so anyways, what happened is that so she formed the Senior Executive Service, and then in 1989, with a man named Holder, all right, actually set up the national in 1989 or 84, sorry, or yeah, I think yeah, 84, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Okay.
Now, in 1980, yeah, 84 was the missing, and in 89 she began Con Air,
Hmm.
the U.S. Justice, the plane, because what happened was that the regular airlines that were transferring prisoners at that point, the regular airlines were not comfortable with the prisoners being shackled to the seats. It was against their safety procedures.
Hmm.
So Christine Marcy was then charged with making an airline to fly these dangerous criminals all around America and even around the world with some deportation planes. And obviously they were outfitted with cages for them to stand in, and all that kind of stuff and all that security so that they could be, cuffed down and bogged down.
Hmm.
Now, after she had established that, in 91, she looked to establish a prisoner medical unit on and aboard Con Air and in those programs for the prisoners that she was transferring. Now, what that says, and there's proof to it, and I haven't found that video. I didn't manage to copy down the stupid link because I forget little things like that when I'm writing feverishly. But anyways, I could find interviews and I could post, stuff to give to you to post in the description afterwards. So we'll
Okay.
do that. And then so and then so now you look at all this stuff. She set up the Senior Executive Service, which basically overwatches everything. All right. And then you have now the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Now, some 800,000 children in America go missing every year.
Hmm.
So you have somebody who has access to a database, you know what I mean, at her hands with how many children. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, those children could be provided to and have been provided to, obviously, some of the most perverted people in the world. And then if they unfortunately die because of the rough nature of the abuse, that's where the organ harvesting comes in. But
Oh,
back to
wow.
yes, that's why, like I said, if you look at those pictures in Haiti of those children, they're all sewed up with Y incisions, and that was Laura Silsby from the Clinton Foundation, who was bringing all those organs back because a body's worth about $1 million. A
That's horrible,
child's
man.
body, I think, is $250,000, something like that. So that they were it was a money making operation. Like for sure it was.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what's up, baby? But yeah. So now you look at the prisoner medical unit, and now she's giving these people psychotropic drugs. And so now you got to look at it this way. The origin of a false flag was that back in the day when you flew your ship's flag, right? Your country's flag on your ship, you flew it up at the top there, right? So
Hmm.
if you were a British ship and I was a British ship, we would both be looking through our long telescopes at each other,
Hmm.
looking glasses, and we would say, "Oh, it's a British ship. Okay, we're fine." Well, the origin of the term false flag is basically say you're a British ship and I'm an American pirate ship, okay?
Hmm.
But I don't want you to know that I am an American. I don't want you to know that I'm the enemy. All right, let's say this is the Civil War or something, right? What I do is I fly my Union Jack just like you do. And then, while my men are setting up the cannon and everything, I then reveal to you that, oh, I'm an American. And before you could do anything, the first volley of cannon shots are being fired at your ship.
Oh, wow.
That's the origin of that's why a false flag is called a false flag.
Hmm.
So then now what you have is you have this woman who has any number of over 1 million prisoners at any time because of the U.S. prison population. Privatized prison population is about 1 million to 2 million people today, right? Back then it was a little less. And so you have these people who are on these psychotropic drugs that are being flown around any place in the world or in the continental United States at least that can basically commit these atrocities like placing explosives in the elevator shafts and the stairwells on 9/11 and everything else, and then hop back on a plane and be placed back in prison with an airtight alibi.
Wow.
Yeah, that
That's
blows your
crazy
mind,
shit.
doesn't it? That blows your
Yeah.
mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that explains why I think at least nine of the 27 hijackers or whatever are still alive from 9/11 today. Because their passports were stolen. They were stolen and given to prisoners.
Huh. That's crazy shit, man.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. It is. It is very crazy. But the more research I do into it, it just seems more and more plausible.
Hmm.
And a lot of people aren't going to want to believe it. But you look at a lot of these shooters, and when they come out for their first hearings, they look their eyes are as big as saucers. For instance, the Klaus kid in the Parkland shooting. That kid was so drugged out, for God's sakes, that and I don't believe it was him.
Hmm.
Not with everything coming out about this David Hogg kid who was there. David Hogg is apparently 26 years old. He's not a little teenager.
Hmm.
So I don't believe that it was this Klaus kid or whatever his name was whatsoever. I don't at all. And Serco is the one that they have these things. They do this stuff. This is their game.
Yeah.
They're the guys that make sure that the chess pieces get put into place at the right time at the right moment. And
Yeah,
they didn't.
Diabolical Witnesses, it's right up there with the Columbine High School massacre.
Oh, absolutely. Those two boys, I believe, were shot in the head to make it look like a bloody suicide, but really, you know what I mean? And then, patsied.
Mm.
And we've seen that a lot. Arguably, that's what happened with Sandy Hook as well, but that's a really sore topic. I mean, you challenge Sandy Hook, and it could, you'll get a lot of backlash about that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I know people who are like, their careers are done on YouTube because of it, which is absolutely crazy. So anyway, we're all here together. And so we covered the death betting. I'm just looking through some notes here.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just getting up to get a drink.
No worries, brother. So you're Christine Marcy. Okay.
Did you just start?
No, we've been going for a while.
Candice Boleyn asks, what are your thoughts on the Southwest airline incident, or the SW?
Was that the Malaysia flight where like 200 and some people died?
Just waiting for a response there.
Yeah, no worries at all.
That was a crazy incident, though. With the plane was there, then they just lost sight of it, and now nobody can find it, and they had like psychics involved. And Candace says, yes, that's what she's referring to.
Yeah, actually, what happened with that one is it blew my mind when I heard about this. But there was a test going on that day for a specific type of a warhead. And what happened was that they had cleared. So from imagine this being your grid, this square here, right? This is your square. So what they did was they cleared from the sea line here, not the bottom of the sea, but the sea line, all the way to 60,000 feet up. All right. So you couldn't fly into this area at all, because they needed it free from any type of aircraft, so that way nothing would screw up a test that they were doing on this missile. So what happened was that Malaysia, that flight was flying along, doing nothing wrong at all, but not knowing that there was an ongoing U.S. military warhead being tested in the area under similar conditions. Now, what happened was they sent up a device that was like I guess a homing, like, the missile was supposed to, and this was confirmed to Mr. Hawkins by several of Able Danger's agents out there that do work for, the Navy, and then a couple of these people were on that specific ship when it fired off this missile. And so what happened was that there was a bloody, the best thing I could say is like a pod, and it was giving off the impression that it was the target for this missile. And this missile was equipped with a saw band that if it was coming close to, here's the pod, and it's coming in, but it knows it's going to miss its target, right? Then what it does is it deploys this saw and it's almost like it's not a chainsaw. It's almost like a big round tree cutting saw. Those big ones where you'd have two guys holding, like that. And what happened was when it deployed that buzz saw, it cut the cockpit from the plane. It cut the cockpit from that 747 there straight off. And so the guys in the cockpit were like, what the hell? Like, and they probably are looking back. And the people in the plane, when they leveled out, they had a good look at the people that were where's the pilots? Well, they're over there. Well, what good does that do us? And then they went into the sea and everybody passed away. It was a failed, and just by accident, the Air Malaysia, whatever they dropped it by 58,000 feet, and they entered into that zone. And unfortunately, they were. It was a mistake. Victims of happenstance. It had nothing to do with anybody trying to kill those people maliciously. It had nothing to do with it at all. It's just that the government and the Navy just said, hey, we got to cover this up. This is over 200 and some souls that were lost, and we can't take responsibility for it right now. So that's it. Let people speculate. I'm going to be right back. I just got to grab a tissue. Oh.
So Diabolical Witness, you were saying there were two of them, windows breaking. What was that in reference to? Waiting for John to come back. I wonder where he got that theory, though. So when he gets back, I'm going to ask him that, because I haven't heard that theory. I don't know if any of you guys have, but that's actually a new one to me. But yeah, when that was going on, I just know that they were looking for, looking for that plane. They had psychics on it. One psychic said something about like it being around rocks or something like that, and something like, yeah, it was really crazy back then with like just the whole airline going missing and there being like nothing anybody could really say about it. So I am curious as to where John did got that theory.
I got it from actually David Hawkins on one of his many interviews that he's done that I could find online. Actually, I'm kind of quoting from him. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I immersed myself in this research, so
so does he have a website or YouTube or?
abledanger.com would be the website. ABLE, or no, it's ABEL, like Cain and Abel.
Oh, okay.
ABELdanger.com.
And hello, Ruby Jules.
You can find, you could type in the the Able Danger, ABEL, and then they have so many up until a certain point, and then they left YouTube for censorship reasons. So like now you could find them on like Steemit and Vimeo and stuff like that. And that's where I went through that, and I had to watch, and it would stop and start because Vimeo hates me, and they always have. And but I still made it through that one broadcast there, and so that was good.
So but, Southwest Airlines had 2 windows break in a 2-week period. Diabolical Witness is saying.
Okay, like in planes?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Oh. I never saw the article or anything, so I don't know. I wouldn't be able to comment on that one, just because I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? If there were nefarious reasons, or if they were just yeah, mechanical failures.
Apparently, it happened in flight.
Yeah, that's dangerous too, because oxygen and the whole plane gets sucked open, and that's not good. But I don't know. Moving on. Do you have any questions at all, or anything like that?
Yeah. So we're talking about Serco, and it's all like a money thing for them. Like they're like betting, like death betting, if that's something that's actually happening. But do you think any of that could have to do like it's a big topic for me. It's population control. I always think that the government is trying to do stuff
Oh,
to control the
absolutely.
population. And I'm
Oh,
wondering, Serco, if that would like be any an area where Serco would be involved with that.
definitely, they were involved in Katrina when the levees were blown. The four levees were blown up by actual explosives, and that's what did all the major flooding. Was when they blew the levees. Same thing in I do believe it was Florida there, or I can't remember if it was Florida or the one that hit Texas. I think it was Florida. And the one, and there's the video with all the dead bodies that were inside of those cul-de-sacs,
Mm-hmm.
and you could kind of see their noses poking up out of the water, and so you could hear somebody from a building shout, they're dead," you know.
Holy
And
fuck!
yeah,
Excuse my language.
yeah, no, it's terrible. It's bloody terrible when I was doing the research on that. But the Katrina thing was that they actually blew the levees. They brought in special weapons and tactics teams, SWAT teams, you know, and they put
Mm-hmm.
explosives in there, which that proved they were actually mini thermodynamic nuclear devices, possibly, or scalar, because there was deflagration or conflagration done to the rock, and the explosive blew up under the water. So there was I can't remember if it was the deconflagration or actual conflagration. So one of them is making it dust and open, like, you know, smooth. The other one is making it dusty or whatever, right? So with those two, that's just, you know, very, very, very short versions of it that I picked up from Phil Schneider's lectures. But yeah, the four levees were blown in Katrina after the main storm, and that's where a lot of the death came from, was the fact that those levees were blown, and a lot of people in those poor, you know, they were killed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also goes towards the death betting, of course, is how many people are we gonna kill, or, you know, this and that. And another thing about these hollow point bullets is with the that could be placed with nerve agents in them. Um, what do you call it? They can actually be dialed in. So what do you call it? Um, they can it's called Project Piranha. And Piranha, Pirana, is an acronym for that Mr. Hawkins created for polonium, injects, ricin, anthrax, Novichok, and ammunition.
Oh.
And so basically, and what they're thinking is that and there are the U of T, University of Tennessee, they have 8 patents, and one of them is a system to make health records available to what do you call it? Correlate abnormal illnesses with your genes, but in a complete gene pool, so that way they could look at African Americans or Asian Americans or Aboriginal Canadians, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, basically say, well, we want to wipe out a part of a population, and, you know, Asians. So what can we fine tune with this type of stuff that, you know, it's going to go after this in the body? That's some of the nefarious work that they're doing with these kinds of poisons and that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Let's see here. So on 9/11, there was a thing called, and I'll go back a little bit here. Okay. So we're gonna connect Serco now to the Picton Pig Farm in British Columbia, Vancouver.
Okay.
All right. So the the Picton Pig Farm and his handler Serco, the experiment at the pig farm from 1996 to 2002 with bullets that had been loaded with a neuro or biological agent to see if they could accelerate and the impact on ethnic groups or ethnicities in this choice being Aboriginal women in the downtown east side of, and that's the poorest district in Canada at the time, and I think it still might be the Lower East Side in British Columbia. A federally registered society called Piggy Pals Good Time Society and prejudices in Margaret, had prejudices like in Margaret Sayer's ilk. You know, Margaret Sayer, or Singer, sorry, Margaret Singer. Well, her ilk that she was quite, racist and, was set up to have sports events, entertainment events run by the Picton family. With their well-known pork equipment. Picton's brother, who's what do you call it? Hell's Angel, gun nut, would have raves that took place in the Picton barn on the property, which could hold up to 1,000 spectators. Now, this ties in with Christine Marcy, who ran a prison medical services unit, as I've said, on the planes for Con Air.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would see Marcy could administer psychotropics to felons and these prisoners, and then she could either radicalize them through disinformation or misinfo, and use these prisoners on false flags and wet ops and black ops to commit a crime and hop on with the perfect alibi.
Huh.
So now you've got this patent made by a man named Darren Rubin, Biological Active Bullet System and Methods, U.S. patent number US 92008 T or 72B1. You could load this bullet with anything, such as radioactive retrograde, to track them, a nerve or paralytic. The U.S. experimented on Picton's pig farm, abducted Aboriginal prostitutes from the darkest and poorest postal code at the time, where people aren't missed, and take them to these raves, and then they would load them up there and shoot them with this round and watch what would happen. Because at first they started with the pigs, and as their minds devolved, they started taking women, and they were doing more than just shooting them with these things. They were eating some of them, and
Oh, wow.
that
I'm going to
kind
stop
of
you there
stuff.
for just a second here, John.
Sure,
Just
yeah.
to get in touch with the chat here. It looks like Diabolical Witness has a couple comments in the chat. Says that the government recently has been getting DNA from major websites, 23andMe and Ancestry, and comparing against criminal cases.
Oh, yeah.
Also, most recently in California, serial killer arrest genetic website subpoenaed in California serial killer probe.
So somebody might be using Ancestry.com to create like a kill list. Like, I'm going to kill this whole family, and they're using like Ancestry.com to figure everybody out, or what? That's good. That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. So getting DNA from major websites to compare against criminal cases. Huh. So they're using that information to track down like criminals and stuff.
Probably try to solve cold cases naturally, you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's a good way to go about it.
Well, and also here in Canada, there is no statute of limitations on any crime here. So
Hmm.
if someone were to admit allegedly that they had robbed an old lady's purse, if somebody wanted to press charges, they probably could.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
using it to track criminals, Candace says they're search and Diabolical Witness, they're searching for DNA partial matches from crime scenes. Okay, okay, that makes sense.
well, that makes sense. I mean, there are white hats that, are doing good things with DNA research and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I know I talk about the deep state as everybody's bad. And, that's what they call the cabal or the Illuminati or whatever. And,
Hmm.
I choose to call them the deep state or the gray state or whatever. But there are good people that are in these government systems that are not corrupted by these groups or these
Hmm.
fraternities or sororities. Like the two biggest ones are Phi Beta Kappa, and then there's Kappa Beta Phi,
Hmm.
and they're both big Greek lettered fraternities. They've had 7 presidents. God, I can't remember how many appointed judges, congressmen, women, all that kind of stuff, and that's the club. Like Michelle Obama apparently was there, Condoleezza Rice, all these people, and so
Hmm.
that's why you see everybody getting these fat contracts and stuff like that. Is and well, with Donald Trump, for instance, here's a little thing that a lot of people don't know about Trump is that when Trump restructured his debts, I think it was in 2004. Do you know what group or accounting for banking firm restructured its debts for him?
What was that?
N.M. Rothschild and Sons. The
Okay.
Rothschilds. The
Hmm.
Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds are connected all the way through this.
Yeah, Candace says regarding that DNA thing, it seems like an invasion of privacy, but if it stops a serial killer from killing again by being able to prosecute, then that's a good thing, which, yeah, absolutely it is.
I
Yeah.
read a statistic somewhere, I think, that said that you might be more likely to be struck by lightning than meet a serial killer in your lifetime. Or it
Oh,
might
yeah.
be the other way around. But the thing is that obviously you're not gonna, know somebody's a serial killer when you meet them.
No.
So,
Well, they
you
seem like
know.
normal people on the street, but you don't know what someone's doing in their private life.
Exactly. No, you don't. You don't. So, I mean, I don't know. I like, what do you call it? I wanted to be a profiler when I was a kid for a while.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed, reading up about that kind of stuff. But I mean, you're Canadian. You can't join the FBI, like,
Yeah, that's funny. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a customs officer, probably because I lived in a border town. So,
oh, of
of
course, dude,
all
that's
things to be
cool.
a customs officer, wouldn't want to do that now, though. Now that I think about the job.
Yeah, cough and squat, and then if it's a woman, you got to go get a female officer.
Yeah.
But I've seen those shows back in the day, and it's terrible. Like women will put guns or something in their strollers, or
Hmm.
drugs in the baby stroller, and they'll get caught with it, and it's just stupid.
Yeah, there's a show here in Canada now called Crossing Borders where they like investigate people who are going across the border and stuff like that. And
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, I remember seeing that show, and this guy, they intercepted 3 packages because they all came from a different state,
Hmm.
and they were coming to Vancouver. And when they opened up all the boxes and put all the metal together, guess what? It was a fucking Barrett 50 cal fucking sniper rifle.
I saw where that was going. I saw where that was
Yeah,
going right away.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like lucky, like you unlucky prick. That's at least 10,000 for one of those. That's what they retail at is 10 grand. And
Yeah.
they're $5 a round. For one round, it's $5, one shot.
Yeah.
Because the rounds are so bloody huge.
Hmm.
But all right, so with this Picton pig farm here, so they would shoot these women with these things to see what would happen and take bets. Of course, there'd be death betting. on how
Hmm.
long they would live for, what might happen to these women and stuff
Right.
like
This is
that.
where they're shooting them with these guns that are with
With,
where the
with,
bullets
with
are have the nerve thing in them. Is that correct?
yeah, the active bullet system and methods with the U.S. patent I read out. So it is a patented technology now. Yeah, these bullets do exist. It's patented. That's the thing about Able Danger. That's what I love about David Hawkins, and that is that they go back through all the paperwork,
Hmm.
all the patents, everything, because there's so much you can learn about patents and that. And the honestly, the beginning of Serco was actually a company. They got into it with it. It was called RCA GB 1929,
Okay.
and it was because Radio Corporation of America mixed with Great Britain formed in 1929, and
Hmm.
then RCA GB 1929 became Serco.
Okay. So guys, I just want to let you
Yeah,
know that the reason John's doing so much talking tonight, whereas I'm like not doing all that much at all, is because this is more of his topic than mine. I don't know too much about it myself,
this
so
is
that's
kind of
why
a
he's kind of leading the podcast tonight.
this is kind of a part one. I'll be peppering in more every couple episodes. You know what I mean? To come, every once in a while. So, if you guys like the Serco topics and the kind of the conspiracy or whatever, even though this isn't a conspiracy, this is a global blueprint that's been printed out in over 240 some
Right.
briefings
Because
that
briefings.
Field McConnell and also
Excuse me.
David
Sorry.
Hawkins have made already now, and they continue to make them available to the FBI and relevant law organizations and also politicians and the president. So if it's up to them to take these briefings that they're doing and sending all the time and actually read them and do something about it because it's all truth. For instance, the Marconi telegraph system.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah, that's a Morse code
That
thing and stuff, right?
that's correct. Now that system was on board the Titanic.
Yep.
Now the Titanic had a policy on it that if it, like almost like an iceberg policy, that if it hit one of those things and it sank, there'd be a really big payoff.
Oh,
So,
really?
so 20 minutes before the Titanic, no, sorry, it was more than 20 minutes. But the Titanic received a short burst from the telegraph saying, "Correct your course, iceberg ahead,"
Yeah.
and and change it by 20. I think it was 20 meters or something like that.
Hmm.
And if they had disregarded the message, they would have missed the iceberg entirely. But because I cannot remember, and I don't know why I didn't add it in my notes. I don't know why it should be there. I cannot remember the name of the vessel that was behind that iceberg, and that was the vessel that piggybacked the Marconi telegraph and made it look like it was coming from, and this is what's called a man in the middle attack. It made it look like it was coming from this gentleman in New York or whatever it was, or but really it was coming from this American military naval ship. I do believe it was a naval American vessel, and it was the one that told the Titanic to change the course to miss
Hi,
the
Jackie Moffat.
iceberg. Hey, Jackie. And so if they would have disregarded that message, that boat would not have sunk then. But because they listened to it, they unfortunately, and then there was also probably death betting
Yeah.
going
Now
on
it's
there
interesting that
because
you mentioned that, John, just because must have been like a week ago I watched a video on the Titanic and it was actually intentional that the ship went down there. The person on the video was saying apparently there was some kind of fire in the boiler area, or actually the area where the iceberg hit the or the Titanic hit the iceberg rather.
yeah,
There's a fire down there which actually weakened it. They shouldn't have actually set sail.
Well, it's
And but it would have been such a loss for the White Star
the
ship
White Star
line
Line, yeah,
that they had, everybody had already bought their tickets and they didn't want to lose the money, that they
exactly.
decided to let it set sail anyways.
Only because they wanted to fall back on that moniker that it was the unsinkable ship. It was the
Yeah.
world's first unsinkable ship. And the problem with that, and I was such a Titanic buff when I was a kid. I had a models of it. I painted the models. I
Yeah.
took I had to
Yeah.
dig a toothbrush and dip it in yellow ink and tap it on the little circles that were the portholes,
Hmm.
Like that's how detailed I did it. And anyways, I could remember I counted the number of nuts and bolts that were on the damn ship. I used to be able to quote that to people when I was
Uh-huh.
a kid. That's how much I loved it. And then
When I was a kid, the line that
unfortunately,
really got to me was not even God could sink that ship. And in my head at the time, I was thinking, well, God, that just sunk it right. That would have just sunk it right there to like flying
yeah,
in the face of God, like
absolutely. Well, the
because
thing here's what it was because they said, well, what happens if it hits an iceberg? And they said, well, we have chambers that we can close that will naturally keep the boat afloat.
yeah.
So if there is a big hole ripped in it, we can close these chambers off, and that way, only so much water will get there, and then the boat will self-right itself or whatever, right? And that would have worked, except they didn't build the compartments all the way to the top of the and
Hmm.
making
Yeah.
sealed. They didn't seal them. They made them like an ice cube tray.
Yeah. This is
So
an
what
interesting
happened
comment.
was
I'll get to that in just a second. Keep going.
what happened was that when the water came rushing in and they closed one of them, it just leaked over to the next one.
Hmm.
And so before they knew it, it was like an ice cube tray, and everything had filled up, and they were sinking, and there was nothing they could do. If
Yeah.
they had done it properly and did the work, but they knew that in advance that they were going to sink this boat with whoever was on it because money
Yeah.
talks,
Yeah. Anyways,
And I
interesting comment here from Candace. She says that she watched a video of a survivor who said after they hit the iceberg, she saw a ship right alongside of the Titanic. She said
yep,
all their lights went out and she could almost reach out and touch it.
yep,
So
yep.
that's
That
crazy. So
there,
there's a ship right there. They could have actually boarded those people onto that ship and
yeah.
everybody would have been fine.
Well, they
But
could have, and under maritime law, like everybody stopped what they were doing and started chugging away to get to the Titanic to help people. Meanwhile, there's a boat behind that iceberg, and they're like, "We're not helping you with anything. You guys are on your own. We're
mhm.
sleeping."
Yeah,
It's
I remember
almost
that.
like that. You know what I mean? And it's just
That was the
terrible.
Olympia, wasn't it?
I uh, I don't know. I know. I think it was a military ship.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought there was something about the Olympia being like a few miles in one direction and
Yeah, yeah. I think it showed up later, but I don't think that was the Olympia behind the iceberg. I can't, but you might be right. You might be
no,
right.
no, not behind the iceberg, but the Olympia that had sent them the warning message. It was,
Oh, yeah. Well, and then what happened was is with the man on the middle attack is that the warning with the telegraph machine, right? That's intercepted, and then it's sent off saying, then they send him something different.
hmm
So that's a man in the middle attack, which is
right.
what
So it
kind of
intercepted
happened
the
on
one
nine
message and
11.
they got sent another one, is what you're saying, pretty much.
Exactly. And that's almost what happened on 9/11. If you look at it, I mean, Dick Cheney hijacked the US responses for everything.
Hmm.
Really, I mean, people were pleading at the Pentagon, please let us unleash our missiles at whatever's coming after us because the Pentagon has missiles on the roof of it. They have an air defense system with missiles,
Yeah,
and they
I've read
were
a
told to
theory.
stand.
I've read a theory where they're saying that part of the reason for the 9/11 thing was so that they could have the security in airlines that they have now, or the
Yeah.
stricter border
Well, and
crossing
also to
lines.
pass the Patriot Act.
Mhm.
They also wanted to pass the Patriot
Yep, that's
Act,
right.
right?
That's right. The Patriot Act, that was part of it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, they wanted to pass the Patriot Act. And so that was a big thing. And then there was the push into, by this time, in my opinion, in 2004, Osama bin Laden was dead. Because I think the last recording that they released of him alive was and Al Qaeda had released this, not the United States. And you could hear a dialysis machine in the background.
It always seemed
And
fishy to me, though. Fishy considering how they supposedly dispose of the body, but
threw him
they
off the
say they've
boat.
gotten Osama bin Laden, and then they had some kind of ritual sea burial for him, so nobody ever saw the body. I mean, that
Yeah.
always came off really, really suspicious to me.
Well, apparently it's part of their religion is that they're buried at sea or whatever. The money, they put them on the raft and they send them down the river. But
Yeah, but
there would be
if that's a prisoner of war, then that is not something that they're going to do with that
no,
body.
no. I have no idea why they would even honor his whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was not, but
And
apparently he was.
if he's supposedly responsible for all those deaths, they're going to treat him with that modicum of respect to
There,
have him have a respectful burial and all that other stuff. After he's done all he's done, there's not going to be,
no,
they're going to
no.
do that. It just doesn't make sense at all.
They had the wood on him. They would have brought,
Yeah.
they would, but the thing was, is that he was dead, and the man that was placed there was obviously an actor.
Well, yeah, again, you can
And
tell because of the different beards. The face doesn't even look the same. Like
yeah,
Osama bin
yeah,
Laden had gray in his beard, and
yeah,
but the excuses are kind of up with, oh well, older men dye their beards or whatever. But
yeah,
you put them side by side, in pictures or whatever, videos side by side, you can
yeah.
tell right away that it's not the same guy.
No, no,
Like even the
I
facial
don't
structure is
believe
different.
so. And the thing is that I think I can't remember what year it was, but it's in that documentary Loose Change, and I love that documentary. I know some of it isn't right, and that's fine. It's an older documentary. People learn things afterwards, but the thing was is that he was in I can't Dubai perhaps, and he was
Hmm.
getting bypass surgery, and he was visited by the CIA station chief
Hmm.
of that nation. And so why would if he was on the number one list of the most wanted, why was this man visited by a CIA station chief and not placed under immediate custody arrest and have full guard outside and everything else? Outside of his room, armed guards, everything else, and then transport him back to the United States. Why would they let him go?
Yeah.
And the thing is that now going back to Serco and talking about 9/11 again and stuff like that, is we go back to the bombing in '93. All right, the first
Oklahoma bombing.
WTC bombing in the basement,
Oh, okay.
yeah, of the WTC. Okay,
Yeah.
well, what happened was that they tried to bring down the what do you call it, the base of the building with the truck bomb,
Hmm.
and so he was placed in prison, and he said to Christine Marcy himself, he said, "Give me more money, and I'll bring it down properly."
Huh.
And so what happened
Oh
was
my.
that
Give me more money and I'll bring it down properly.
yes, because he was paid by the United States to do that, to go in as cause for the first Iraq War, because George H.W. Bush, daddy, wanted money, and there was a lot of money there to be had.
Interesting
And
how so much goes back to Bush on these.
oh yeah, the Bushes and the Clintons, they're very, very, very wrapped up in this, because the Bush cabal really controlled the White House through three different administrations. Four, because you had Daddy Bush, and then you had him before that, but really it was Daddy Bush, all right, and then Clinton, okay,
Hmm.
his son, and then Barry Swatowski, who is also known as Osama or Obama,
Hmm.
but his real name is Barry Swatowski. That, and he's Indonesian. Yes, that's the whole question on his birth certificate. Now, anyways, what was I talking about going back? Oh, yeah, the bombing. So now that we know and we've established that, and after the Second World War, as I was saying, Britain had developed all that type of stuff, right? And they set up something that's called the Five Eyes, the Five Eyes nations, which are the UK, Canada, the US, Australia, and New Zealand. Those are the Five Eyes. And underneath that, you have the Defense Threat Reduction Agency now, which basically, they're the ones that wanted the destruction of the Syrian chemical missiles and stuff like that. And what happened is now that Serco is basically taking control of the Five Eyes. So America can't spy against its own people. So the U.S. gets the Brits to spy for the U.S. The U.S. spies for the Brits. Canada spies for Australia. New Zealand spies Canada. Everybody tells each other what's going on,
Hmm.
and that's one of Serco's specialties. Now, with Christine Marcy having access to some of the most deadliest and criminals, well, give me more money and I'll bring it down next time. What happened was she basically created a school. She placed in the same unit as I can't remember his name, the bomber, the first guy,
Hmm.
from the WTC. Well, they also brought in Ted Kaczynski and Timothy McVeigh.
Okay.
And they're the ones that it's alleged they're the ones who planned the WTC both towers. And when NM Rothschild and Sons restructured Trump's debts, and Trump sold his soul at that point to avoid having the Trump towers go down rather than the World Trade Center. It's alleged that the Rothschilds or a messenger asked him, would you rather the Trump towers go down or would you rather something else happen? And of course, he wanted to keep his buildings up. And so it's looking now like Trump may be a tool you know, of the cabal because the Rothschilds did help him restructure his debts, but I can't speak at that now. It's still too early in that junction, and I don't know enough yet.
Okay.
But the thing is that Christine Marcy established a literal bomb college, a bombing, a terrorist type bombing college by having in the same pod, the same isolation units, right? Where they could talk through their doors to one another. As you had the guy that said, "Give me more money and I'll bring them down. I'll bring it down properly." Ted Kaczynski, and you also had Timothy McVeigh.
Hmm.
And those three there were the ones that drew up the plans on how to bring down the WTC Center with the bombs inside the building and whatnot. And the planes were added for effect because you could always drone the planes, and that goes back
Hmm.
to Operation Northwoods, where they wanted to blow up a civilian airliner over Cuba to justify a military movement into Cuba. And that was vetoed by Kennedy. Kennedy said no.
So Jackie Moffat is saying that, John, you know a lot.
Well, you know what? Honestly, in my spare time, I sit and I do research. And a lot of the times when we're doing our show, it's always normally paranormal related. So every once in a while, I get to pepper in some stuff that I'm learning about and I'm excited about. And it makes sense and it sounds true. And it is true because this stuff is all being backtracked through patents, through patent offices, and all that. So, I mean, these patent holders as well can be compromised because if I own a patent and then somebody goes out and uses that invention or whatever, they have to pay me, right? So if they build it and they use it for nefarious purposes and the money goes into my account, I'm compromised. I look bad. I look like I could have sold my secrets. I look, that stuff, right? And that's another way of keeping people to keep their mouths shut who own these patents is, well, no, we use this for this. It looks bad for you. Go along with us, and you'll continue to get money.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've covered that portion of Serco for tonight. What do you think, John?
I think we've covered that portion of Serco for tonight as well. That's a good start for part one. And a lot of people can only listen to so much of the truth before their eyes start to glaze over a little bit.
Yeah, Ruby
And
Jewel says
that
she also watches Able Danger, and she's learned. It's amazing what I've learned. She says.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing what you can learn from Field McConnell there and David Hawkins.
Yeah,
They
I'm
have a
gonna check that
great
out myself.
Yeah, they've got a great chemistry. Field McConnell kind of makes the jokes and stuff, and David's very dry humor, and stuff. Great chemistry, a lot of stuff to learn. Just you'll find yourself immersing yourself in it. I mean, I've got 7 pages of notes, and I've gone over hours and hours of video. So, I definitely in the next couple episodes, I'll pepper in some more Serco material. But the next
Cool.
one's going to be full paranormal.
Right on, right on. Speaking of paranormal, I think we're gonna do a ghost box session. If you're still into that, John, if you got the time.
What time is it here? I gotta 11:30. I gotta take my medications and stuff like that. So it's a little late to do the ghost box session. I think we should do it next time.
All right, so we'll do that ghost box session on the next one.
Yeah.
In that case, whenever that may be, I never know when my days off are gonna be until like Saturday or Sunday. So
No worries, no worries. We'll always find something that'll work.
yeah. So if anybody in the chat has anything they want to say,
Yeah. Questions, comments.
anything you'd like us to cover on Beyond the Beyond would be cool too. That way.
Yeah, you guys always drop a comment in the comments there, suggestions or anything like that. You can email me. I'll get my email to you, and you can put it in the description if you want. And that kind of they can email you too as well. We got our Twitter on there, so you could always send our Twitter handles, DM or whatever, And if you do follow me or whatever, send me a DM just saying, "Hey, it's me," so that way I know who you are, and because I do use my Twitter for a lot of sports related, like NFL and NHL stuff too. So
Right on.
yeah,
So, yeah, and if there's anybody in the paranormal field who's interested in coming on and being a guest on the
yeah,
Beyond I can't even talk now, Beyond the Beyond podcast, then let us know. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to get another guest. I can't guess.
We had Darlene on earlier at the beginning, and she's actually starting a channel. We're going to be having a contest just to find out what her channel should be called. If you want to learn more about that, just go to the beginning of the video after this has been uploaded. And we had a bit of discussion. I had posted on Facebook earlier and in Truth Seekers that we had an incident that happened last night where we almost died, and yeah, it was pretty serious.
That's very serious.
Yeah, but that's in the beginning of the video, so we don't want to rehash that in the same video. But if you guys want to find out what that was all about, just go to the beginning of the video, and after this has been uploaded, you can learn about that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I got kind of an idea, like Wife in the Beyond.
Wife in the Beyond.
There you go. That's a name that I think she could use. And then because Bert Kreischer does his wife does a podcast called The Wife of the Party. And she just talks to she brings her girlfriends on there and kind of brings the female perspective to like being the wife of a comedian and stuff like that. And so like maybe she could do that as like bringing the aspect of being like, the wife or a partner of somebody that's in the paranormal field and dealing with like, having to wait around and, while your boyfriend podcasts or your husband podcasts kind of thing. And you know what I mean? That stuff,
Yeah, I think she kind of wants to have her own identity though, John. So.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a suggestion. You know what I mean? That's all. But yeah, no, whatever she picks will be cool. We'll definitely promote that for sure. So.
Yeah, so we will be doing some kind of giveaway. We're gonna be announcing that a little bit later. Darlene will anyways, or I will somewhere on on my channel. That'll be announced. Like there'll be some kind of contest, something you can win, just for coming up with a cool name. So, yeah, I think that does it for tonight, John. Hey.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're good. I'm actually a little tired, and I gotta take my other meds and stuff, and
All right, so I want to
tomorrow's
thank
my girl's.
everybody for joining us tonight,
Yeah, thanks. All to you, man.
and you guys have a good night, and we'll see you on the next Beyond the Beyond.
Definitely, we'll see you guys next time on Beyond the Beyond. Have a good night, everybody, and y'all have a great weekend. Talk to you later, Wes. We'll talk soon.
You bet.
All right, brother. Much love. Take care.
Much love to you. Bye, everybody.